I would like to do is give you a clear understanding, I beg your pardon, of exactly what the problem is. So if we go back to the fundamental basics, then when we move forward and we talk about all the technology, you actually understand the problem and why it occurs. So what is amblyopia? So the definition says that it's the failure to achieve normal vision in an otherwise anatomically normal eye. But how does that actually occur, and where does it fit in? So there's a range of people here. There's optometrists, ophthalmologists, journalists, managers. So if I say things that you're kind of familiar with, please forgive me. But for sake of completeness, I'll just go through the basics. The cornea, if we look at the anatomy of the eye, the cornea is the strongest lens in the eye. So think of a camera. You've got lenses and a reading system, which is the retina. Now the cornea being a lens and the lens itself, together they focus the eye on the back. I mean the light on or the image on the back of the eye. Now this concept is fundamental to the understanding of amblyopia, because if you don't have a focused image on the back of the eye, the retina, there is no sense going to the brain, and therefore the eye will not grow. So this is an important concept, growth. So I'll quickly take you to my very personal experience. I have a 3-year-old boy, and for those of you who either have kids or have watched them grow up, at 3 he can walk, talk, disagree. He can pretty much do everything that an adult can do. He's just much smaller and his filter hasn't kind of grown yet. But my point is that he went from 0. We've got some baby experts here. My third child, my daughter, she's now 2 months old. She can't even roll over yet. She can basically eat and fill nappies and cry. And so they go from nothing or very little to fully functional human beings in 3 years. Now 3 is this golden number, which I'll show you. But the concept is that should I inhibit her exposure, so the 2-month-old, what will happen to her? So I use this quite dramatic sort of analogy. Perish the thought, but if I took her arm at 2 months old and I stitched it behind her back and I left her like that, now she must go out and play and she grows up. And at age 3, I untied it, or I took it away and allowed it to now move. What would it look like? It's going to be a claw. It's going to be completely underdeveloped, right? You know this. You know this. So what happens is atrophy from a plaster of Paris is when you don't use the muscle, you lose it. But the concept here is completely different. The concept is that if you don't use it, you will never develop it. Does that make sense? It's fundamentally different. So it's not losing, it's never gaining. It's a bit like I wasn't born into this wealthy family, so I didn't lose it. But, you know, and we struggle, or at least some of us struggle, to really understand this fundamental growth period, which is from 0 to 3. So think about that analogy. Now, what do you need to develop vision? You need a focused image on the retina. How do you get a focused image on the retina? We'll explain in a minute. But the important thing is that vision is not just in the retina, it's all the way down the whole tract, all the way to the occipital lobe in the back of the brain. So vision is the eye and the brain. So if you don't get a focused image here, the entire visual pathway does not develop. And then there's a closure to this, beyond which, so once you've untied that hand, it will never be normal again because you've inhibited its growth. And this happens on all levels, both physical, emotional, your personality is formed. All of those things happen in these very early formative years. But fundamentally, vision. So if you obstruct the vision, or if you don't get a focused image on the back of the eye, you will not develop normal vision for the rest of your life. That is such a fundamental concept. Now, how does that happen? Normal vision, as I've explained, you have an image, and the inverted image is focused on the retina. The focused image then provides a useful message to your brain. So just as a quick little analogy, if you hold your finger up in front of your face and look at your finger, but now point it in my direction, just do this. Participation, try it. You guys don't need to, just try. Hold it right up in front of me. Now look at your finger, now try and recognize me by focusing on your finger. That is what a child will experience. The difference is that they are born that way. So when you're born into a world and that's what you experience, how do you know what's normal? How would you possibly know what is normal? So the normal focused image is something that you would only know once you experienced it. What causes the image to not be focused? First of all, hyperopia. It's a very important part of this whole thing because hyperopia is farsightedness, short eyeball, the image falls beyond the retina. The way these numbers work is the numbers we use, the plus and minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are the inverse of 1 meter. So you can think if a plus 1 is focusing 1 meter other side or beyond the horizon, a minus 1 meter closer. That's why a short-sighted person is minus, far-sighted person is plus. But hyperopia means that these people can see reasonably in the distance, and the important concept is when you are young, so you under the age of 7 or whatever, your lens is still so soft and your muscles are so strong, the focusing system of the eye can actually overcome a lot of the hyperopia. What happens then is that this is missed with normal testing, and Renee will expand on that. Myopia, the opposite, is when the image falls short, the eyeball is too long, we use minus lenses to push the image back. So this is the basic concept of focus, which I need not explain to my optometric and ophthalmological colleagues, but unless you understand the concept of focus, amblyopia means nothing to you. Now, what is astigmatism? Astigmatism is an irregularity of the cornea. Importantly, it is largely caused by eye rubbing associated with allergy. So what that means is that we have more than just a defocus. We've got a second condition that needs to be addressed in these children. But astigmatism degrades the image to a factor of 1.5 compared to myopia and hyperopia. So I won't bother you with this now. Quite simply, there are other causes of amblyopia. So what can cause the image not to get to the retina? So if something is obstructing it. So deprivation or obstructive amblyopia means that, for example, a cataract or a ptosis, a droopy eyelid, is obstructing the light. Another one is if the squint is so severe that the muscles are pulling the eye way out and it can't fuse the image with the other eye. Reverse amblyopia is what we cause by patching and atropine, and the point I want to make here is that if the spectacles are provided early enough, you don't need to patch, you don't need to atropinize. They actually cause harm, but the spectacles on their own, given timeously, which we'll show to you, is the proper treatment. This is the most important slide, and Renee will show you a better version of this that you'll be able to read. This is the take-home message. Think again back to my analogy of the 3-year-old and the 2-month-old. From 0 to about 1 year old, everything is increasing. On a daily basis, they can do more. So the rate of change and the rate of learning and growth is just exponential. It is massive up to the age of 3 and then declines and tapers out round about the age of 7. So this is the golden number here. Beg your pardon. The golden number is age 3. Before age 3 is when you need to detect amblyopia and prevent it. After age 3, you can only detect it. You can't do as much. From here, you're in the stragglers. You're not going to make a big difference. The big thing is that you can't test as easily this side. But if you don't, you're going to miss, and you're going to allow these people to live a life with one or more blind eyes. So amblyopia doesn't only occur in one eye. In extreme cases, so extreme hyperopia, and I've got a few of these patients, they're amblyopic in both eyes. So they've never achieved full vision. They struggle to get driver's licenses and so on. So the idea is that if you don't use it, you don't grow it, and you never achieve it. So you can't lose it because you've just never got it. And this period is so critical because these children are difficult to test. They are pre-verbal typically, so they don't complain, and they wouldn't have any reference. So in years gone by, it was difficult, expensive, and time-consuming to measure this group of children, but now we can measure them very cheaply, safely, and effectively. And because of that, we now can address the problem. Most of the cases can be corrected with just a simple pair of spectacles. So what I wanted to get across to you is what is the concept of amblyopia. And if you understand the simple concept that if you don't grow that eye by these levels, you will never get it. So you will then be a blind person in that eye or possibly in both eyes. Now, bilateral amblyopia, they're not completely blind, but they don't achieve 20/20. They sort of hover around 60, 70%, and they can't live normal lives. So just quickly, hyperopia, you can't see close by, but you can see far. Where's your life when you're crawling? It's all here. So it's quite dangerous in the fact that myopia is you can focus a little bit better because you can see close by. Then the last concept is one of anisometropia. An means not, iso means the same. Metropia is the length of the eyeball, which means the refractive error or the number is different. If one is clear and the other one is blurry, you will pick the one that's clear and your brain ignores the one that's blurry. So anisometropia is particularly dangerous because that means that the one eye will be amblyopic. So we have to pick up the amblyogenic factors, which are the refractive errors by and large, and then other things like cataracts and mediopacities, which Renee will explain and show to you, so that we can address them and prevent the problems.